Welcome to Athletes, Entrepreneurs, and the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct, where we've created a platform to help athletes and other alumni network and connect within their fellow groups, and also to tap into different types of resources in financial and career and health. But this show is all about athletes transition out of sport. It's such a major issue today between financial literacy, mental health, and just everything. We want to make an impact on athletes. So we interview former college and professional athletes, and we talk about their journey, their transition out of sports, ultimately to successful business leadership and entrepreneurship. And the whole idea is to teach and inspire athletes that there is life after sports. So excited today to have Nik Lewis on. How you doing, Nik?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. And so I'm excited because Nik is a Hall of Famer. So he started out, he played football at Southern Arkansas, and then went on to have a very successful and great career in the CFL, all-time receiving leader and first ballot Hall of Famer. So we've had a couple Hall of Famers, but I think you're the first football one. So that's great.
Nice.
Yeah, then he got into the whole entrepreneurship. We were going to talk about his transition out of sport and some of the things that he did. But ultimately today, he's the founder and CEO of AO Sports. So excited to hear more about it. I heard about it a little bit offline, but Nik's going to share some of the great things they're doing there. Nik, I always start out asking, talk about sports growing up and how that shaped you leading up into college.
I mean, growing up in small town Texas, that was all there was to do. We would always be playing around doing something. We're either playing tackle football, we're going to the baseball field playing baseball, or we're at the basketball courts playing basketball. So sports really shaped my life, and just understand that, it was a grind. And for us in small town Texas, you watch the Friday Night Lights and all those. And I remember going into my senior year when Varsity Blues came out. But growing up, you just watch the guys play on Friday nights, and that's really because that's so obtainable. That's what most people really dream about in those small towns, is being out there on Friday night playing under the lights where the whole town's watching. And so it was great. It was a great start to life.
Yeah, that's really cool. That was a great show. In fact, I didn't watch it when it was out, but then I remember like my son at one point, like, Dad, I watched some of the different episodes. Dad, you got to watch it. Like, so I binge watched it. I was like, yeah, whatever. Who was your favorite?
You talking about on the show or?
Yeah, on Friday Night Lights. Yeah.
I didn't watch the show. I'm talking about the movie. The movie.
The movie.
I'm
Okay.
always Boobie Miles. Is one of those guys that just to see his transition, understand that talent is not enough. Sometimes you need a little luck to make it all the way through, especially back then when ACLs were the end of your career. Now it's like a 6 to 8 month injury that you're coming back from. And we've seen some, Adrian Peterson coming back in 8 months and destroying the NFL after. So just knowing that Boobie Miles was on that team. I don't know if a lot of people remember, but Roy Williams, who played at the University of Texas and played for the Cowboys, his brother was on that team as well. He was one of the receivers on that team. Uh, he was actually in the movie. He was actually a coach on the other team on one of the games. So it was pretty cool to see. So, yeah, little history there for everybody with the Friday Night Lights series.
Yeah, it's kind of like everybody's the new thing's All American. Everybody's watching that.
Yeah. All America's a little different, man. It's like California football. It's a little different in Texas, but it's a good show. Yeah.
No, you're right. Texas is where they do that. That's great. So, did you dream about being a professional athlete? And if so, was it football?
No. I was a basketball player. I played all sports growing up, but just really loved basketball, loving the ability to compete, engaging with the fans that were right there off the court, being able to do everything I did. It was just I was a huge basketball player, right? Going into high school, I didn't want to play football anymore. One, it was in Texas. It's in August in Texas. You're going to get 100 plus heat, a lot of humidity. I didn't want to be out in the heat. I'd rather be in the air conditioned shooting hoops. I remember my athletic director and head football coach told me, "You're not playing basketball if you don't play football." So really didn't have a path around football. So I played both and just enjoyed my time. Played baseball my freshman year as well.
That's good. Yeah. Back then, I think people played all sports. It seems like now everybody's kind of geared into one sport. We talked a little bit about, just like if you're travel baseball, that's all you're doing, and football. And I think how do you think that affects kids today just zoning in on one sport? I mean, obviously they could be better at it, but do you think it takes away from not having playing the multiple sports?
I think the biggest thing is you learn so many tools for your toolbox by playing multiple sports, right? Different footwork in basketball and baseball's hand-eye coordination, a lot of different things. So you're being able to build up all these different tools by playing multiple sports that allows you, when you choose one at the end, that allows you to really hone in on all those. But then you have all these extra little tool pieces that, hey, I can add this to my game. I can add this to my game. So I think kids don't really get that as much anymore. At the same time, I don't think kids do much of the fundamentals anymore. Everything now is so focused on winning. I mean, if you look at it from the little league level, little league coaches want to win championships. They don't develop kids the way they used to develop kids. They give it to their best player over and over. So it's not like we're getting a lot of development at that early age, that needs to improve, right? So these specialized kids that can do one thing really well. Either I'm super fast, or I can do this really well. I can do this really well. I've also seen some trainers, they're turning football into this is the new and one. These footwork doctors and all these people out here doing these drills, and it just doesn't always transfer over. That's why you see kids that are super talented, super athletic, but it doesn't always transfer over as you get to college and the pros.
Yeah, no, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about, I mentioned the whole, premise behind this is just, the struggle of athletes transitioning out of sport. When you were in college, was there any type of education, not just like the 1 day workshop, but was there education around that? Like, hey, sports can end someday, and here's the things, you need to be looking out for.
No, I don't remember anything like that. Being a Division II walk on, never really didn't really think, hey, I'm going to go from D2 walk on to a football player, pro football player, right? It was just really playing in the moment, get to extend my career as a football player, going to class, getting good grades, wanting to be a coach at some point. And there was never anything that I thought about while I was at Southern Arkansas on the transition out. I just assumed that it was going to be, hey, you're going to go and do this, and then you're going to go and just apply to try to get a coaching job, and then start to build from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we talk about, especially more so with some of the other sports where there might not be such a professional presence, that they tend to have that, plan A, plan B, whatever, plan C, whatever you want to call it. Whereas some of the athletes like football, baseball, basketball might be more zoned in, so to speak, and then all of a sudden they're done, and then just they haven't had that opportunity for the education side of it.
Yeah, now after going through the whole process, I really tell young athletes, it's like it's not a plan A or plan B. You got to have a life plan. What is your life plan? Where you're going? And then if you do make it to the pros, that's a detour, right? So your life plan allows you to be successful. And then if you get a chance to detour and take a different journey, it's going to open up other doors. It's going to give you more opportunities. But you don't know how long that detour is going to last. It could last a year. It could last 30 days. It could last 10 years. So we don't know what that detour is, but we can't build our success in life off of the detour, right? You got to really worry about the life plan. What are you building to be? Because no matter how great of an athlete you are, one day you're not going to be an athlete, or you're going to be retired from, you're not going to get paid to play anymore. And at that point, you have to understand, okay, what is my life plan, right? What am I doing? Even when I'm playing, how am I using my off seasons? Am I using my off season to improve my position once I'm done playing? Am I using my off season to learn about more about what I want to do after? And how am I spending my life to get ready for, just that transition out of sports?
Yeah, just phenomenal advice there. I mean, you need to get up on stage and talk to athletes about that, because I mean that's great. I mean, it really is, and uh, just because I think a lot of them, we talk about it sometimes when they don't have that, and then all of a sudden they're done and they're just expecting certain things to happen, and it's just not there for them. But I like having that life plan. That's great. Yeah, and we're doing things. We're talking about going into schools and trying to develop additional curriculum around athletes transition to sports, and not only just for the current athletes but the alumni athletes as well. I mean, somebody that's, if they're fortunate to play professional like you, all of a sudden they're out, maybe they're out 2 or 3 years, and what do they do next? And so we want to have that, have that education out there. And I think some schools are doing it, but I think a lot of schools don't, and I think there's definitely a need for more of that. How about from a perspective of the CFL? Do they have like today, different types of programs to help the players when they're done playing?
You know, I'll say it like this: for the most part, when you're a professional organization, your goal is to win, put people in the stands, do those types of things. There's a lot of people that are going to say they care about you. A lot of people are going to say that they want you to do great and be well off. But when you have training camp and you have 100 people coming in training camp, and then you got to cut the rosters down to 50, and then you got to do all these other things, they can't take care of everybody. They can't sit there and really do those things. We had a guy in Calgary. We were very fortunate that took time to come in by the name of Jack Fulton, and he was helping guys to transition. He put on job fairs where he'd have some people come from around Calgary and come in, and we'd be able to sit down and talk to them. He would give us aptitude tests. He would do different things to try to prepare us for life after sports. But so many people, when you say Plan A or Plan B, you don't want to think about Plan B until Plan A is done, right? And that's why I went to the focus of the life plan, because now it's like, this is what I'm doing. Football is just a part of it, but I'm doing this over here, and understanding that. So all those things just try to bring us closer to who we are. And there's so many athletes, regardless if it's college athletes transitioning out or pro athletes transitioning out, you're never going to find anything that's going to feel anything like game day in life, right? And you have to be okay with that. And there's so many athletes that's not okay with that, because either there's college athletes that's coming out that think they could play pro football or pro basketball or whatever pro that is, and they're not given the opportunity, or there's ex pros that believe they can still play. And whenever you're at that stage, it's very hard to transition.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. So let's kind of switch gears here. And networking and connecting is so important, and it's just in all aspects of life. Whether it's sports, non-sports. Talk about the importance of networking, connecting while you're still playing.
It's huge. Every time you get a chance, I'd go to charity events. If you're in college right now, I'd find different charity events to go to, and go to those charity events when you have an opportunity, and network with the people there. There's so many important people there that give back time, that give back effort, and doing things. But also, they're going to see you at these events, giving your time and doing those things. And people want to help people that they feel like are doing good for other people, right? So it allowed me to meet CEOs. It allowed me to hang out with a different class of people. And at that point, it changed my focus on what I wanted to do, and how I believe I could do it, right? To execute AO now is a accumulation of me hanging out with so many different CEOs and so many different people that lived at a different level than what an athlete would live at.
Yeah, it's we talk about it all the time, and it's never too early to start. We had one. I was talking to a couple current college football players, freshmen, and they were just saying they never really learned it like in high school, and it really would have been valuable. Now they're still young, so they have time to learn it. But I think the point being is that you're surrounded. You've got your friends, your teammates, you've got parents of them. You've got coaches. I mean, people want to help, and the last thing you want to do is just get stuck where you just kind of have total blinders on and don't. And like I've talked to some agents where they just say some of these athletes they don't do they just and then all of a sudden they're done playing their sport and they haven't taken the time to build those relationships, and all of a sudden they're expecting to get this big 6-figure sales job and they don't get it. And the reason they don't get it is because they just haven't established those relationships, like you're saying. I mean, just going to these different events, and people want to help. And I always talk about, I think sometimes people get, they'll look at someone like, oh, well, how can I help them? They're like this, super wealthy person or whatever. You never know. I mean, I think if you have a helping heart, that people, like you said, people are going to want to, do things for you, and it might be helping their kids. Who knows what it might be, but definitely be open to helping others.
100%. And when we look at it, there's a lot of kids that don't feel comfortable in those rooms. Like they get in those rooms, they don't know how to be there. There's kids that don't have ties, that might not have button down or dress up shirts. There's kids that don't know how to engage in those rooms when they step into them, right? So really feeling comfortable being in a room with people that are dressed up, or with people that have different philosophies, that might not even watch sports at all, but understands the commitment that it takes to play the sport, and then they can respect it, and then you can start to build on that. But you know trying to open up and trying to give yourself the best chance to succeed in life is all about relationships, right? The relationships you have is going to ultimately lead to where you're going to end up, and how you can benefit from those relationships, whether that's meeting different people in different tiers of job opportunities, but just being willing to take those chances. But you're going to grow as a person.
Yeah, I mean, and do you have like any kind of any tips for, gaining that comfort level? I mean, anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, for me, just stepping in the room, at first it's okay to be standoffish and kind of just see what's going on in the room. But ultimately, you're going to have to take the step forward and try to look around and find a group that you feel like they're enjoying themselves, they're laughing, they're not too serious, and then try to integrate into that group. And once you integrate into that group of people that are not too serious, introduce yourselves, tell them where you're from, what you're doing, and things like that. And it'll be a great conversation starter. They'll have some questions for you that's pretty easy. And then they'll want to introduce you to other people because they'll thank you for being there. They'll thank you for taking your time to come and help if you're at a charity event and those types of things. So that's, to me, that's always the best way.
Okay, no, that's great. So let's talk a little bit. We're gonna talk about alumni engagement, and obviously, alumni direct is important as we're developing these different alumni communities. When you were at school, was there like a movement to bring alumni back in a capacity, not just for like the homecoming games and all that, but more so to kind of work with the other athletes and kind of mentor them?
Excuse me for coughing so much. I don't know what's going on. But no, I don't recall any kind of alumni engagement when I was at school on doing anything, right? So it was kind of like just the guys on the yard, and we were all out there trying to get it. And it's a big sports school, so you would think there would be more alumni come back. You would meet some people at football games and meet some people that would come back and they would introduce themselves and things like that. But there was never any kind of structured events where we came back and they put on anything to help us out or do anything in that capacity.
Now, do they try
Now
to
that
do it
could be just
today?
at a D2 level.
Yeah.
That could be just at a D2 level. That's a little bit different. I mean, I know that one of my former teammates, Cornelius Anthony, went to Texas A&M. They did some things. They're able to call back and they'll go through their alumni and make phone calls for them into the job sectors they're in to see if there's any relationships there. Um, and it's better if you're a well-known player. Like if you perform really well at the school, that's going to open up a few more doors. Because I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of people out there. No matter what school you play for, if you do well on the field and you're doing well in the public, then they're going to want you around and to be able to talk to people and tell stories and do things like that, and just to utilize your skill set from your playing days.
Yeah. So like today, do you ever does Southern Arkansas reach out to you at all now, or like just modern
No,
day?
no, not really. We talk every once in a while. A couple years ago, I went down for their award show called the Mule Speech. I went down and I talked on stage for that. Just was engaged with the athletes and things, and just told them that I'm building a platform that hopefully I can come back and share and we can put some NIL opportunity into the university for the athletes there and do some really cool things and creating content on campus. So that's what I've been working on and looking forward to getting done.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, if you think if a Hall of Famer, they would want to have, and I think most athletes, for the most part, want to give back, but they're not asked. I mean, this comes up a lot in my conversation, but I was on a call with the athletic department for my school, and the guy that was on with me, my friend, he was on my podcast as well. He's a Hall of Fame football player from the school, and then played 10 years in the NFL, and he's like, tap me in. I want help. I'll come back. I mean, so I think that schools don't necessarily realize that, and I don't know if it's harder or easier for smaller schools to ask of the alumni, but they definitely should, because I think I'm sure if they, like you said, you came back for that ceremony, but I'm sure if they asked you to come back, obviously you have to have the time to do it, but still, like I'm sure you'd find ways to do that.
100%. And, like I said, different universities are a little different. If I went to University of Arkansas, a lot of those people live around the University of Arkansas, live, close to there, or it's a good trip back. You might go back for a football game. You might go back for different events and things like that. But just having structured events, I think, could be very beneficial to the athletes that are there currently, and just give them some hope. But also, it puts pride in the logo, right? For a lot of smaller universities, what does the logo mean to you? What does that value asset? And being able to see people accomplish what some of us have accomplished gives more pride to that. I remember, quick story. I remember talking to Cedric Thornton, who was drafted in the third round by the Philadelphia Eagles from Southern Arkansas. And one of the biggest things was my brother was playing football at Southern Arkansas at the time. I go back for a spring game to watch the spring game, and Cedric happened to be there as well. And he came up to me and just said, when I got here, I didn't believe in myself very much, but I looked at these pictures of you and seen all the awards that you had. I seen what you did once you left here, and it gave me the belief and the hope that I could do the same thing. Right? Without ever meeting him, I was able to inspire him just by what I accomplished there. And he gave, and I, me, Jordan Babineau, who played for the Seahawks for 8 years, and a couple of other of us were able to inspire people just from what we accomplished there. That gave them the belief that they're not just playing Division II football anymore. They have a chance to go on and further their career. So for him to go on and play, 5-6 years in the NFL was truly amazing. But the respect that he showed without ever meeting him, I was just so proud of him and what he accomplished. And this year he went into the SAU Hall of Fame, so that was awesome. So he's in with that group as well, and I told him we're brothers for life there too. So it's just a great honor but you start to understand how those relationships can really be beneficial when people come back.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great testimony to why schools should bring back their athletes. Now, is there any kind of like how does it work with the CFL? I mean, I know like I've talked to people in the NFL, and it's kind of it's almost like fragmented because they've got different alumni groups for the NFL. Is the CFL, are they active in helping promote alumni and alumni working together?
Yeah, I mean, as a whole, the CFL has the Alumni Association. I've always looked at these alumni associations as they're just very limited in what they can do. They have these fees, but the fees aren't high enough to really make a difference. But the fees are low enough so that people will pay it to be in it, right? So, we've looked at ways of how we can help some of these alumni out as well with AO Sports and be able to bring an influx of capital so that we can help people with some of their most basic needs, whether it's healthcare or housing and different things like that. So it's a big struggle for the CFL because half your players are Americans that go back to the U.S. and may not ever come back to Canada or may only come to visit in Canada. So what is their purpose of being in a CFL Alumni Association, right? And then your Canadian players, and then so it's really fragmented. It's really not I would say it's not a great thing right now because what's the purpose? What's the benefits of being a part of the Alumni Association? Other than just paying my dues and just being recognized as a alumni member. And I mean, we need these people, right? They do great work, but we got to figure out a way to streamline it to make it better, so that every player wants to be a part of this. And now, because of the events you're putting on, because of what you're being able to do, how you can affect kids in the community, of how we can mobilize and help people in a whole, then we just got to find a way to streamline the process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you hear about that, there's got to be value there. I agree. And it's interesting too, because we've had this conversation lately of there's, you don't really see any, at least outside looking in, like a movement of players across sports like engaging with each other at a high level. The star athletes you see do, but it just seems like, you've got the football fraternity and the baseball fraternity and the soccer and basketball, hockey. And it's kind of, they're not really tapping into that whole camaraderie of being an athlete. I mean, do you see that?
No, not at all. That's another thing we're targeting is cross promotion. There's fans that are fans of multiple sports, and we believe the more that we can show cross promotion of sports, that the better the fan engagement will be. right? When fans see athletes from different sectors being able to engage with each other on a regular basis, it's going to bring about a different type of content, but also it's going to bring about a different type of fandom. And we got to be able to streamline that as well. So those are all focus points of what I've thought about over the last 7 years since I've been retired, and just trying to see how we can improve it for the next generation, but also for us, right? Because I would love to have a place where where it's a sounding board, you know, or whatever it is, to be able to say, hey, I need help with this, or hey, we're looking for something. I would love to pick out one of my alumni to do this. So now just getting that information out to them, and now being able to create opportunities through it, or being able to cross promote that way would be so beneficial for so many athletes.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So the fun questions I always ask. So what advice, 10 words or less, would you give to freshmen in college?
10 words or less. What advice? I heard something the other day, and yeah, learn, earn, and return. Those three words. Learn now, and then earn once you're done learning that, and then be ready to return it to other people.
That's great. All right. And then what about fast forward to a senior, Nick?
To a senior,
Well, no, you specifically. Like you're in a time machine. You're going back and you're like, okay, what advice would I give Nick? So now, like one of those like Back to the Future kind of things.
what advice? Be more active, right? Be more active. I used to always tell myself, like, we get the short end of the stick because we're going to start in the regular world at 30, 35 years old. And there's some other kid that started at 20, 22 years old in that field, and they've grown in the organization. And now you have to step in at that part. And now you're starting to build that. But even though I knew that, I wasn't active towards putting myself in those situations to growing and being a part of that. So my DB coach at Southern Arkansas my freshman year was the DB coach at TCU. So in my off seasons, and we still talk, I could have went over and said, "Hey, can I come and guest coach during spring ball for those 3 or 4 weeks and just come and help out?" That would have furthered my coaching career so much. I would have learned so much in those 3 to 4 weeks over the years of doing that. But I never did it. Right? I wasn't active enough in knowing what I needed to do, but not putting action to it.
Okay. Now let's talk about so transition out of sport. I mean, I guess in a sense you had two transitions, right? Because you kind of transitioned college into being a professional athlete, and then ultimately when you were done. So you've played sports all these years. Talk about any potential challenges you faced, and then follow that with some advice that you give to other athletes.
Yeah, there was some absurd, some uncertainty my first year out. Once I retired, I knew I wanted to get into coaching. My mother just got cancer, and so I decided to take the year off and fighting this battle with her and going through this whole process. And you get to this place like, okay, well, I want to get into coaching, and what's available, what's the opportunities. And then that's when I realized I haven't done anything besides train kids. I've never put myself in a coaching situation outside of training kids to really coach. So what attributes have I gained over the time? And I just didn't do that. So luckily for me, one of my good friends got a head coaching job, and he hired me there to be the running back coach. So, you know, going back to everything that I've said, this is where we have to be is being more active into what we want to accomplish once we're done, or our life plan, putting more action into your life plan in your own time, and doing those types of things. So that I'd say that. And what was the second part of that? I'm sorry.
Just like yeah, I mean, it was more about, and you kind of hit there a little bit, just advice you would give to athletes as they look to transition out of sport. I mean, for you, you had the initial challenges. Some people, I mean, because you've been around it, you've seen probably some athletes really spiral. They just don't know what to do. They haven't prepared properly for it, and that's unfortunately, like kind of the lack of education. But maybe just advice that you would give to them. I mean, the great advice you already given is the life plan, and that's awesome. But any other
100%.
advice that you might give to somebody as they're facing that, being done with that sport?
one, when it's time to walk away, because sports is so different. Like, you can't just go apply for a new job. When there's no opportunity left for you, be ready to walk away. You have to close the door. Don't leave the door open. A year from now, 2 years from now, I'm still hoping to get a phone call. You have to be willing to walk away, and you have to be willing to close that chapter to move forward, or you're going to put yourself through so much stress. I see so many guys like, oh, I'm still better than that guy, and he's playing. I'm still better than that. Like, it doesn't work. Like, these guys are younger. They're probably making less than you did, and all these other factors go into it. But just be ready to walk away. Be willing to walk away from it, and then just go and enjoy your life. But yeah, just put that more action into the life plan. That's the best advice I can give you, because when you think of it like this, it becomes a whole different aspect. Like, I was fortunate to be able to retire with 1 year left on my contract. So still having the ability to go back and play, but choosing to walk away is a lot easier than somebody taking it from you and then you don't have the ability to go back, right? And it's just a different mindset. Yeah, put that time in the life plan. And when you start thinking of it like that, it really starts to streamline. Okay, I'm made to do this over here, but I get to do this. And as long as I get to do this, it's great. But one day it's going to end, but I'm still doing this. I still have passion over here. And I always say, if you can't find value in yourself, you can find it through putting value in others.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. So now let's talk about, we're gonna talk about AO Sports, but give me your thoughts on, I guess we always talk about like the athlete skill set, the DNA that makes an athlete have success in becoming an entrepreneur.
So one of my friends, he played hockey for 14 years. Half of that in the NHL, another half in different hockey leagues. Very accomplished hockey player, and he built a company in Calgary. Never played for Calgary, just thought it was a great sector that he wanted to go into. And he told me, he says, I hire a bunch of people, but I hire an athlete to run every department. He says, I can teach them everything they need to learn. So they don't have to have knowledge of what they're going to do, but they know how to make people work together in groups. They know how to get to better success rates, and they can get people to work together to hit deadlines better than anybody else. Right? As an athlete, you take a game plan, you apply it, you get instant results every week on if it worked, if it didn't, if you were good enough, if you weren't. You're able to take that and recognize it. Then you have the review process, right? You reviewed your work, and then you say, okay, here's what we need to correct it. So if I put an athlete at every head of every department, then he says, okay, here's the group's task for this week. He's able to streamline that to get everybody to work together with limited knowledge on what's supposed to happen. He just knows how it's supposed to happen. He can delegate the jobs. She can delegate the jobs. And, you know, they can get to a better result faster than most people that may have more knowledge in those areas. But just like we do in the locker room, right? I don't know everybody in my receiving core. I don't know my quarterback. I don't know the running back or O lineman when I get there. But guess what? We're able to take a game plan and we're able to apply it and deploy it and go out and try to execute it. And then we know instantly, did it work or did it not work? But then we're able to take what we did wrong or we didn't do well enough and change it to make it better. Right. So every time the process just gets better and better and better because an athlete's at the head.
Yeah, it's I talk about that a lot on the podcast, and just imploring athletes that you've got that skill set. So maybe maybe you didn't learn it in college by doing the internships, but you're learning on the field. And I love what you're saying there about the game plan, because I mean that's so important, obviously, to have a game plan and execute it, which is like probably entrepreneur 101. So let's talk about AO Sports now. Just go through and what you're doing today, and as it starts rolling out.
So yeah, AO Sports is a global sports media subscription-based platform that we're about to be rolling out Q1 of 2025. And for me, during my transition, seeing a lot of my ex-teammates on YouTube and on other social media platforms, I've always loved people. I love sports and I've loved media. During my playing days, I had my own radio show called the Coping with Nik Show, me and Jermaine Copeland, and we were doing that once a week. It was great. So just being able to get into this media world, but also give athletes a platform that's truly made to monetize, because we know the hurdles of athletes is trying to find something that's going to reach the level of for us to be able to say this is something I'm passionate about, where I can be passionate about showing content, me helping other people, be passionate about a podcast where I'm hearing stories and sharing stories and doing so many. And you see these athletes podcasts today that are doing amazing, but to truly monetize that and have a distribution where we can streamline the fans through to get multiple types of athletes, not just football players, but athletes from all backgrounds. We have two of the top 10 racquetball players in the world. So there's at every level, growing up, current college and pro athletes and former college and pro athletes being on the platform is just a great opportunity for us to get this out there.
That's great. And so you're rolling out Q1. It's right around the corner here. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. And then I know we talked a little bit offline. So basically, you've got the fans that are the followers, and then they have
Yep.
this media content, which wherever they want to go with it, as far as the different athletes.
Yeah, it's almost like if you mixed Netflix, ESPN, and social media all in one hub, and bringing it all together, that allows fans to engage at a deeper level, allows athletes to engage at a deeper level and create content that's more meaningful to their audience and to themselves. And we just help streamline that process. So a lot of these athletes don't understand algorithms. They don't understand marketing and branding and all those pieces. So we're able to put the pieces around them, around their consistency that allows them to execute at a high level, just like any teammate, right? If you give me a quarterback, and I know I need to put an O line with them and a quarterback, running back, and receivers, we can do that, right? Now the quarterback can go out there and just be a quarterback. If we need whatever we need, we can put around these athletes to help them produce, whether that's production support, branding and marketing, helping them build their brand. So many athletes don't know what their brand is. Like it's like, what am I here for? What am I doing? What do I want to become? And why would another brand, why would a billion-dollar company say, hey, we want that person to represent our company, right? And that's where we want to grow in.
Okay, that's great. And how do people find you?
AOsports.tv, we have our demo page up right now. You can go there, you can check it out. We have a couple pieces of content up, but really looking to launch this. It's going to be great. We have right now it's just a WordPress page, but we have a whole platform that we'll be releasing there. And when we release our app, it'll be a mobile app and also a TV app. So you'll be able to find us on Fire Stick. You'll be able to find us on Amazon TV and Apple TV, LG's, Vizio, all those. You'll be able to go and just find that and watch our content. So looking forward to doing some things. We just booked our first wellness retreat with a big NFL star that we're going to be doing the production and distribution for as well. So many opportunities at the table that we're looking forward to doing.
It's exciting. I'm looking forward to watching it and seeing it grow and finding ways to work together. So this has been great. You can find us at alumnidirect.com and the podcast, Athletes Entrepreneurs Alumni Journey. We're on our Alumni Direct YouTube channel as well as across all the different podcast networks. I definitely encourage people to follow and rate it and review it. And just, I think there's so much. Nick brought up great content today. And just every time I go back, and I talk about this all the time, Nick, when I'm editing out and listening to different podcasts, I call them the nuggets, but these nuggets that come out, I think there's so many athletes that struggle, and I just, implore them, people are out there that want to help you. So definitely, check it all out. And this has been great, Nick.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your platform. And I just want to say one other thing to the people listening right now is like what we're doing at AO is truly engagement. It's not just sit behind a TV or sit behind a computer screen and watch our content. You're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna from the documentaries, reality shows, and stuff that we're gonna be bringing to the table. But it's also a huge fan engagement platform, and we're gonna be taking members of our platform to major sporting events, so Super Bowl, World Cup, just different sporting events around the world. We're gonna have our own events as well, so it's gonna be something that you're definitely going to want to be a part of, and everybody's going to win at the end of the day.
That's awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So we'll see everybody on the next episode of Athletes Entrepreneurs Alumni Journey.